What is up, guys, and welcome back. This past week during our stream, we had a surprise conclusion to our game of Global War 1936 here. We had a mutual capitulation from our allied and Comintern player, so our game has come to an end. So what we're going to do today on the video, instead of a normal recap, is we're going to go through and count up the victory points for each of the three alliances and see where we were at when the game ended. So that's going to be great, though in the end, the real purpose of this game was to teach my friends and hopefully some of you viewers how to play this game a little bit better. It's always good to see it in action and kind of do it yourself. So I think that the guys learned a lot, and they told me they had fun, and I'm inclined to believe them. And also, we drew for the winners of our giveaway here. We had 4 winners, each win a $40 gift card to Historical Board Gaming. In case you missed it, I doubled the value of it to celebrate getting to 100 subscribers in the time that it took me to actually do the drawing. So instead of having 2 separate drawings, I just doubled the amount. We had 4 $40 winners. So congrats to Evan Hermanson, Jae Saber, Mr. Scrubert, and Zefert. You guys are our winners. And it took me a long time to figure out how to get you guys your gift cards. In the end, I'm going to go with the way that Panzer King did it and just have you guys comment your emails in the comment section of this video, and I will contact you and get you your code. Unfortunately, YouTube has removed the private messaging feature, which is what I was going to use, and also I was going to have you guys just email me, but there's some room for some foolery if we do that. So I'm just going to have you guys comment an email address that you feel comfortable sharing, and I will contact you and we will get you your gift card. So congratulations to you guys. In terms of future stuff for the channel, we want to get another game going, but unfortunately, and fortunately for me, unfortunately for maybe other people, I'm going to be in Spain for 6 weeks this summer, and I won't really have time to do a game while I'm away. So no new streamed games until August when I return, just because we don't want to start a new game now and then have to take a 6-week break and then try to get back into it once I get back. So that is unfortunate. Also, just because I'm gone for 6 weeks doesn't mean I'm gonna leave the channel dormant for 6 weeks. This whole week I have been working on some videos. I'm going to get a bunch of videos ready before I go, and then we're going to release them weekly. So that's the reason I'm releasing this video tonight, is because we're going to start releasing videos every Saturday. 1 video every Saturday, just so we can kind of get on a schedule, I think that's a good way to do it. So that's something for you guys to look forward to every Saturday. I've got a bunch of strategy videos coming up, so I hope that those are fun for you guys and that you'll enjoy them. And that's all I got in terms of housekeeping stuff. So let's get to counting some victory points. All right, we've got the final board state all set up here. Let's just run through the victory points real quick and count them all up. Starting with Germany here. First up is going to be their Lebensraum points, of which they only got 1. So the Lebensraum point that the Germans got was just West Poland over here, Warsaw, West Poland, and Donoslavsky. Obviously didn't get the Baltic states, so didn't get that point. I never got Denmark, so I don't get that point. That was going to be one of the last things I did, so no Denmark. Next up is Yugoslavia and Thessaly. That's kind of in the same boat as Denmark. I didn't want to get Thessaly too early because it's just another place for the Allies to amphibiously land. So I got Yugoslavia and just kind of sat on it and was waiting until later to get Thessaly. And then finally, you can get a Lebensraum point for having Southern Ukraine, Western Ukraine, and Belorussia, which I didn't get Belorussia, obviously. I was starting to build up a little force up there to maybe go towards Leningrad, but things started looking pretty dicey in the south, so I redirected a lot of those troops down into Ukraine to try to hold Kiev there. Next up, eliminate communism. I either needed to have Moscow or 2 Soviet cities. I didn't do that. I only had 1 Soviet city, so I didn't get that point. I did gain resources because I was making more than $50 here at the end, and I won the Civil War. So the Germans got 3 points, so add 3 points to the Axis tally, And then we'll head on down to Italy here. Italy was doing well. They never got into the war, and you don't need to get into the war to get all of Italy's points. So first off, gain new territory. We got Albania, and we got Abyssinia down here. Got those 2 points early on, and if you don't never get in the war, they can't take them from you. Obviously, nationalists won the Civil War, so there's a 3rd point for Italy, and there are no Allied capital ships in the Med right now, so we get that point as well. 4 points for Italy, which brings our Axis total up to 7. Though I will mention that the British player had just dropped 4 battleships onto the build queue, so I don't think if we played the entire game out, I would have gotten that Mediterranean capital ships point. Moving on to Japan, he gets his colonialism point because his income is over 50 IPPs per turn right now. It was actually north of 60 at the end, so he was doing very well on that. Pacific security, he also has, because he has the Marianas here. You start out with the Carolines and the Marshalls, so that's that. There's another point for him, and then raw materials. He never took British Malaya, but he does have French Indochina. He does have the Philippines, and he does have Borneo and Java. So there's 4 more points. The Japanese are actually at their maximum right now of 7 points, so adding that to the European Axis powers, and we've got 14 points for the Axis team. Okay, moving on to France. France is still Axis possessed, but the Free French can still score their victory points. They didn't get disarmed Germany because Germany's income is higher than 24. But they did get the eliminate communism victory objective, which is to not have any communist pieces next to French home country, which the Free French don't have a home country until some part of France is liberated, and then it becomes part of Free French home country. So technically, no Russian pieces next to French home country because it doesn't exist right now. So 1 point for the French, and they did not maintain their empire. Next up, going to the Commonwealth, they also got contained communism because there are no USSR land units in Austria, Denmark, Spain, Norway, or the home countries of Germany, Italy, France, and Great Britain. The communists are still all the way back in the Soviet Union, so they did get that point. Maintain the empire, they do not get, because right in the last turn, the Japanese captured South Africa and Aden. So the British did not maintain their empire. They also did not contain fascism because the Germans and the Italians are both at or above their starting income. And I already mentioned that the Commonwealth did not get Mediterranean security because the Italians have more capital ships. So 1 point for the British. That brings our Allied total up to 2. Moving on to FEC. They just have a bunch of territories that they need to keep hold of. It's really, really hard to accomplish this one, and they don't have Ceylon, so they don't get their point. And for the Anzac, there is this Japanese fleet within 2 sea zones of Australia, so they do not get their point either. And here for our final ally, we have the United States. For the Monroe Doctrine victory point, they do not get it because we had a Japanese landing here in the Pacific Northwest. They did not contain fascism. The Germans and Italians have economies larger than what they started with. And for contained communism, this one was actually pretty close. The USSR has to have less than 5 new land zones with IPP values on the board. And you guess that they have exactly 5. 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5 up in Finland. So the United States just barely do not get that victory point. For Pacific security, this one was actually pretty close. You see that the Japanese have 3 capital ships over here and 1 right here, bringing their total up to 4. But the Americans brought their entire Atlantic fleet over, and they actually ended up with 6 capital ships here in the Pacific. So very close. If they would have been able to snipe this Japanese carrier, then they would have had twice as many capital ships in the Pacific. But we ended a little bit early for that, so no Pacific security for the United States. did not get maintained empire because it lost the Philippines and the Marianas and Hawaii and some stuff on mainland United States. They did get technological superiority, so that would be 1 point. But unfortunately, they lost this territory in their home country, so that gets negated. So the United States got 0 victory points. Lastly, for the Allies, the KMT has been eliminated from the game, so they can't score any of their points. Bring our final Allied tally to 2. Let's move on to the common turn. The first victory objective for the Soviets is to have a buffer zone, which requires that they have Eastern Poland here and all 3 of the Baltic states, which they were not able to do. So don't get that one. Worldwide communism, they get 1 point for every territory outside of home country with an IPP value that they have. We already counted earlier that they have 5, so there's 5 points for the Soviets. Eastern security, they need a railroad from Moscow all the way to Primorsky Krai. I think 1 more turn and this one would have been cut off. But as of right now, they do have that point, which brings their total up to 6. Ice-free port, they need to have a major port in a sea zone greater than 8, which they do have here in Vladivostok, here in sea zone 38. So there's another point for them, that's 7. And they did not get technological superiority because they did not get strategic rockets. So 7 points for the Soviets at face value. But they did lose some territory in home country here worth IPPs. We've got North Caucasia here, 2 right here, and then 2 back here. So there's 5 territories they lost, bringing their total to 2 victory points. And the CPP does not currently have a presence on the board, and so cannot score any of their victory points, bringing our common turn total to 2, as well as the Allies. So final score, 14-2 to 2. But again, this game was all about teaching my friends how to play. It was kind of a trial by fire, and they did very well. I'm impressed with the way they played. Matthew gave me some fits here on the Eastern Front, and Rhodes was giving me a hard time in the Atlantic until he decided to move his fleet to the Pacific. And geez, our Commonwealth player had probably one of the worst dice games I've ever seen in my life. So sadness to Grant. But I think we learned a lot from this game. I know that I learned some things for sure, and I hope my friends did. And we're excited to get another game going. Again, unfortunately, that's not going to be for a while, but we are certainly looking forward to it, and I think they are as well. I think they really, really enjoyed the game. That's all I got for this week, guys. I'll see you next Saturday.